going to show you how to take your existing land use map and separate it out and add text so you can fill out your full analysis of each different type of land use. I'm going to go here to extras to shut off the grid. And then we're going to put it into InDesign so that you can create an 11 by 17 sheet that shows you, or that shows your land use analysis. So the first thing, have your Photoshop file open of your existing land use. Your existing land use map should look something like this. And make sure that you save. I've already saved it, but click save. Make sure that your Photoshop file is saved so that you don't by accident save over it with all your layers flattened. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your map, you're going to go layer, flatten image. I can discard my hidden layers, that's okay, because I'm going to save a copy of this. I'm going to go to File, click Save As in the drop-down menu, and you should have a folder for this particular map. Within whatever your folder is for this class, you should have a folder for all your different projects and maps. So I have my land use map here. I'm going to click as a copy and go to the format, and in the drop down menu click JPEG. Make sure you always click as a copy. Get in the habit of doing that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this, give it a name. So I'm going to call this all existing land use and save it as that JPEG. Click save. Make sure that it's medium to high, somewhere a little bit below 1 megabyte or just above 1 megabyte is good for getting a nice crisp map. If you make it really large, you can do that, but then your ultimate InDesign files for your project are going to be larger, which can sometimes they get too large and they're bulky to work with. So I'll click OK, and then what I'm going to do is go to Command or Control, depending on whether on your Mac or Windows-based computer. Click Command or Control Z to go back one step and get all my layers back. So then I'm going to pick one use. So I'll start here with my institutional, shut off all my other layers. Now I only have my institutional uses showing. I'm going to go back up here to Layer, Flatten Image, click OK for Discard Hidden Layers, go up to File, Save As, go to the folder where I have everything for my land use maps, and I'm going to change the name to institutional land use. I'm going to make sure, or go down to the format, click JPEG, and make sure I click as a copy and click save. Click OK. Do Command or Control Z. Shut off institutional. I'll turn on another one. Here's multifamily. Go to Layer, Flatten Image. OK. Go to File, Save As, save on my computer. Change the name to multifamily land use. Hit JPEG, or select JPEG as my format, click as copy, save, OK. Control or Command Z, and go ahead and do that for all your different land uses. Then I'm going to go into InDesign. InDesign is a vector program, as is Illustrator. Photoshop is a raster program. Photoshop sees everything as pixels. InDesign sees everything as objects. So if you draw a line, it sees it as an object. If you draw a shape, it sees it as an object. The benefit of a vector program is when you zoom in, or you make your, like say you have a map and it's 3 inches by 3 inches, and then you make it 6 inches by 6 inches, it won't pixelate. So that's why it's really great for text and other types of graphics. So I'm going to go up to File, New, hit Document, and change units from picas to inches. Graphic designers use picas. We don't have to worry about them when we're working inches. Select width, make my width 17, my height 11. If you have a north-south oriented neighborhood, you can do it in reverse and do your width as 11 and your height is 17. Click Create. So now I have my page, and I'm going to place my maps on this page. So InDesign will see my maps as objects and it will place them as such. So it's almost like in the physical world, I'm grabbing my map, so place, right? And I'm bringing it over here, so I'll do all existing land use and putting it on this piece of paper, you know? So if I click once, it's going to put my map on here as the actual size. If I click and hold like this, I can scale it however I want. Sometimes you might want to do this. For the most part, what I like to do, if I click Control or Command Z, it went back to the step before, which was me placing this page. If I click once, it's just going to put it on there. Now, whenever you see this blue line that's around the object that I just placed on this page. That's when I have it selected. If I click, it'll have these white dots, or when I put the cursor over that, I get arrows to manipulate this object. If I click outside of that, you don't have the white dots, it's not selected. So I just click on it like I'm grabbing or touching that piece of paper. I can click on those white dots. If I click twice on there, you'll see that turned to red, and you can see the white dot has a little bit of red on it, and if I go over the line, it turns like red. That means that I'm looking through the window, the blue line being the window of the paper, and looking through the window into the actual object, and I can manipulate the object inside that window. So you'll see the window still shows, and then this line of the object inside is red. And what I did is, I kind of squished it, right? Which I don't want to do, so I'm going to go Control Z. I just want you to know what the difference between the lines are and how you can manipulate this object, because you can scale it inside there. But an easier way to scale it is, so I'm going to double click outside of the window. I'm going to select the object again, so I'm grabbing the whole thing. And I'm going to go up here to Object, Transform, Scale, and I'm going to put this down to 50%. As long as this chain is highlighted and I just click in there, it'll automatically scale my my X and Y axes in the same proportion. So hit OK. And then as long as this is blue, I can just grab this and crop this real easily. So I'm going to crop this image. I'm going to put it down here. Move it over a little. And then I'm going to create a legend for it. Can use this rectangle tool up here. If I click and hold down, it'll give me an ellipse. So you might want to make triangles or circles or whatever for your legend. I'm going to use squares. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key so I get an actual square and not a rectangle of some other sort. Similar to in Photoshop, this is like the fill and this is the line for that square. I'm going to switch this because I'm more concerned with the fill, and I want the fill now to be, say, this green, because I'll put my green space layer separate, or I'll start with green space. So I can go up to the eyedropper tool, which is, oh, here it is. Here's the eyedropper tool. So it's called the color theme tool, but it looks like an eyedropper. I can click on that, click in here, and it's selected my green. So now if I go up here into properties, so every time you're using a different tool, this properties window will change, and it will show options for whatever tool you're using. So I have fill in here, and all these colors come up, which are the typical colors. These are the standard colors which always come up. If I scroll to the bottom or go here, oops, so I forgot. So I selected this green color tool, and then here, this right here with the plus, I need to add it, and it will add it to my palette. So small swatches. I swear I just did this. Oh, here we go. Now I just had to click out of it and click back into it. But here are my colors. So here's that green, and it changed my square to green. I can click my selection tool to get out of that. Click, and I'm going to choose my type tool, and I'm going to add my text here, create a box, and type in green space. And again, you'll see that this properties goes changes so that it's now has all these different options for my text. So I'm going to choose a different font. You just use, whatever you're using, be consistent throughout all your graphics. So let's just say I'm using this Acumen as my font. And then I can manipulate the size or change the size to maybe 10 point. 10 points about the smallest you want to go most of the time, just because so people can read it when you print it out. And then I'm going to crop this so that I have a nice sort of top to bottom so that the shape is smaller, because again, I'm going to align these now. I'm going to show you how to do that. It will, if I have this, it'll see this as like the whole shape. We don't want that. I want it to kind of be pretty much constrained to the actual text. Now, if I select more than one object, I have two objects, then my properties window changes to show this align and distribute. If you can't see this distribute, there should be something like these three dots which give you more options, so just click on that and that will come up here. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to align these on their centers, center horizontal axis. So right here are it says align vertical centers. So that's that horizontal sort of oriented axis that's at the vertical center of these two objects. If I click that, it will align them. So that wasn't very... So again, if I click them, you see that they align on the center. So then if I hold shift, I can move it as close as I want. Now if I select both of them and I right click and I click on group, now I can copy and then paste and move these over. I can create my whole legend. And then if I select all these groups where everything is oriented the same, and just do enough for all your different layers, go back to align, I can click align left edges and they line up that way, and then I can go to distribute and click here on distribute vertical centers and it'll make them all even to each other. Let's move them down to they're at the top of my map. And then if I need to manipulate any of these, I can double click into this group and I can change this color. Let's see if the fills come up. So my theme's there because I used my eyedropper to click onto here. I can click this red and then I can double click in my text here, go to my text tool, highlight this and change it to commercial, and so on and so forth, and do that for all the rest of your layers. Now I'm going to place all my little individual maps in here. So go to File, Place, and then I'm going to select, so I'll select my green space land use, click Open, click once, and it's this big size. I'm going to Object, Transform, go to Object, go to Transform, scale it, and I'm going to make it smaller than my all my land uses. I'm going to bring it down to, say, 25%. Then I'm going to crop it. I'm going to put it up here, and I'm going to add a text box below it, and then in that text box I'm going to write, I'm going to make sure I'm on the same font that I was using. And type, the green space land use, and so on and so forth. Maybe I'll change this to 10, and I'll have my text box underneath there, and write all of my analysis about the conditions of the green space and the pattern I see of the green space in the neighborhood. So then I can take my text box and my single use map here. I can right click and group them. I can copy and then paste and do this for as many different land uses I have. I can even select all three. Oops. So I selected all three. Do copy, paste, and then I have three that I can place down. Oops. So that was an example. See, this red line came, and I was like within the window selecting that. I don't want to do that. I want to select these as objects and then move them all together. And I can do that for all my land uses. And if you need to resize them, make sure you resize them so that they all fit on the page. And then in order to replace this, so these are groups. So if I double click, I'll go into that group. I'll click this one map. And if I go to File, Place, and I select a different one of my other maps, so I go to commercial land use, for example, and place that, it'll just replace it. And I can go here, and double click, get that map, File, Place, and I think I had, here's institutional, and then I can double click in here and use my text tool and manipulate, the institutional so on and so forth, and just do that for all of your uses. I can't spell here. And then to save it, it's similar procedure to Photoshop, where I'm going to go, except for what we're going to do here is we're going to export it. So go to File, Export. Oh, you know what? One step. Always save your files, and save frequently and often. So I'm going to create a name for this file, save as, and I'm going to put it in my land use maps folder, and I'm going to call it land use, or actually let's call it existing land use, existing draft, and just save it. That way I have my file saved and I don't have to worry, everything is the way it's supposed to be. Then I'm going to go to File and export it, and we're going to save it as a PDF so it's easy to print out. So within that same folder I have my existing land use draft, and I'm going to select PDF and uncheck this if it says use InDesign document name as the output file name. Uncheck that if you want to change the name of your map. Click Save, and then this window comes up, and there's things that are pre-saved in here, and you can create your own. But if you just start with this high quality print mode and you go to compression and make sure that 300 or less is what your images are sampled down to, so that what this is saying is, like, if this map is at 600 pixels per inch and I put 300 in here, it's going to sample this down to 300 pixels per inch. 300 pixels per inch is still a sizable number of pixels. And then don't have to worry about marks and bleeds or any of these other things, but go to Output and make sure you go to Convert Destination and select Document CMYK if this is going to be something that you're going to print out physically, which you are. You're going to print this out and bring it to class on Wednesday. And then hit Export, and it will save your file as a PDF. So then when you go into your folder, you'll see your PDF in your folder. If I go to Desktop, Land Use Maps, and here's my existing land use draft, right? My PDF. Okay, so that will get you to where you need to go.